Alrighty, welcome back to part 2 of my very exciting tournament report from the coming storm. 17th of March, was it? See, it was last week, a bit. So this is part 2, so this is games 3 and 4. If you haven't watched games 1 and 2, you can go and watch them now. Or I can give you a spoiler. Here's a spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. So I won the first one by far too much, and then I drew the second one against Dan King, 14 all. So this put me upper mid-table, I would say. And it came into game 3. Game 3 against the Brotherhood. So having just faced the Dark Lord Dan King, bearing in mind this was my first tournament ever, I then turned around and faced Nick Williams. Another incredibly good, pretty, internet famous player. So I was a little bit kind of like, oh my god, what am I going to do? But nonetheless, plow ever onwards. Plus, Nick's army was beautiful. I've taken a lot of pictures of it just because it's so nice. So that was really nice to play against it. And he's quite an intense guy. I think he's very funny, and he's exceptionally good. But he's very intense. He puts the pressure on. Let me tell you, it's part of his game plan. And I'm jittery at the best of times. So I was like, all over the time, all over the place. Okay, so a good time was had by all. So this is Nick's Brotherhood army. If you haven't seen it, go and find it on Fanatics or whatever, or it might be on Dash 28. If it's not, it should be. He's got the most incredible display board anyway. So the army is composed as such. He's got a horde of Villain plowshares who are, well, terrible, but they're just a big chunk that sit there. 2 hordes of water elementals, so they're speed 7, defense 5, regen, I think regen, yeah, and which he's given 2 5-point items. He said that the warbow of Kaba, including our game, he fired it twice and it hadn't wounded once. So it was just a bit of a joke. He's got 2 regiments of the Order of Redemption, so they're cavalry. Oh, and he's got 1 with Brew of Strength, 1 with Brew of Sharpness. That's very scary. So Brew of Sharpness means they're hitting on 2s. Brew of Strength means they're hitting on 3s, but they've got Crush 1 to add to their Thunderous 2. Nice. I've completely stolen this idea. It's great. A troop of Villain Reconnoiters. So these are the mobile cavalry on horses. Yeah, what are they called? Archers. Archers on horses. And then he's got a devoted. So he's got a heal hero and a melee hero. And the heal hero is a surger with a lot of heal, so 7, heal 7. And the adjutant is a combat hero with the loot. Yeah. And then for allies, he's got a horde of Elohi and a phoenix to heal them. So Nick's blogs about his army quite a lot, and how he uses it, which is good from my point of view. So at least I came into this battle knowing what his plan was. So all that was in my head was kill the Phoenix. That was basically the whole thing. So my army is the same. Again, if you haven't seen it, go back and look at the first battle report. But if you're really desperate to know, it is its core. It's the Green Lady's formation, and the Tall Spear Horde has got Sharpness to make them hit 3s. And then one of the Palace Guard has got Headstrong from the Dwarven Ale. Then I've got Horde of Dracons with Brew of Strength. I've got a Mystical Dragon with Blizzard. Green Lady, Standard Bearer with the loot. What else have I got? Is that it? Oh, I could look at this picture right in front of me. 2 hordes of chariots with nothing. That's my whole army. So this is how we deploy. So this is the board, another nice lava board here. So we've got an impassable piece of terrain here on the left, and another impassable one here in the middle. So these are 2 height 4 rocks. Then these are hills. There's a hill here and a hill here. This is another rock down here. Splitting my forces. There is a forest here and a forest here. So there's 2 height 4 forests and a couple of height 1 walls. All these trees are just on Nick's bases, so ignore them. Alrighty, so that's the battlefield. So it's a pretty split battlefield. There's kind of 2 big fields. There's this big field here, and then this kind of narrow chasm down here into the woods. So this is how we deployed. So on the, if you can see here on the left hand side of the board up here, he's got all of his mounted troops. He's got his reconnoiters here behind the cavalry, Those of you who watched the last battle report will notice this is the same kind of setup as the Brox, so it's obviously thought to be, well, in fact, it's practically identical. He's got these are the strength ones, these are the sharpness ones, and he's got his heal hero behind these ones. And this is interesting because what he did was separate the Surger away from the Surges, which is his water elementals. But I suppose on a horse you can kind of dash pretty far, and Surge is 18 inches. But I think that's that. I didn't realise this till halfway through the battle. Also, small note: check how nice pink looks on green. It's really cool. Moving on. So the centre of his line, then he's got his 2 hordes of water elementals, and that's his melee hero with a lovely banner. And these are his villains over here. And the right hand side, he's got Elohi and this gigantic model. This is the base. That's the actual model there, right at the top. It is about 2 foot tall. It is ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, it's great. And then on my side, so countering the Phoenix and the Elohi, I've got my Mystical Dragon and my chariot, 1 chariot horde. And then I've got my line, so that's the Palace Guard with the Standard Bearer behind them. And then the other side of the rock, which is annoying, I had to split them up. I've got the Tall Spears and the other Palace Guard with the Green Lady, offering them some inspiration. And then countering the cavalry hordes, I've got my other chariots and Dracons. So that's how we looked when we were facing off. Now, Nick won the roll and chose first turn. The scenario, I should hasten to add, is invade. So we need to get as much unit strength into the opponent's side of the board as possible. So Nick went first and didn't do a lot because he hasn't got a great deal of shooting, apart from the Warbow of Cabba, which missed. So he just kind of moved everything forward. So just outside charge range, I guess, of the Dracons, etc. And then I responded. This is after the end of my turn. So apologies, I was carried away in the moment, didn't take one at the beginning. So I've moved the Dracons up to just outside their charge range, and I haven't moved these chariots on the left. Instead, I've just shot at this horde here with the sharpness and done 4 points of damage, which is alright, I suppose. And then these melee blocks moved up here and here, so these ones are just outside of 14 because these charge 14. And similarly over here. So over here, I haven't moved that, so these charge 20. What I've done is moved up all together because he's only got 1 unit that can charge, so he could take me off in a single go. However, he's going to be hindered because there's a wall here. And then, in what was a glorious moment for me, my chariots shot at the Phoenix. I rolled really high and I took him off in the first go. He's only defense 3. I think I managed to get a Bane Chant off. That was the key for me, which is the first time this Bane Chant has done anything of use the entire game, the entire tournament even. So he managed to get a Bane Chant off, and we knocked the Phoenix off first turn. Big thumbs up. That was a strong first move for me because that bugger flying around can really cause me issues. Of course, the Elohi is still going to cause me issues. Now at this point, I think if we jump. Now, there's the Elohi. There's the lack of Phoenix that I'm gleefully taking a picture of. And here's the 4 wounds on the sharpness, whatever they're called. Big horsey dudes. Right, now, with an apology here, I've skipped a turn. I've skipped turn 2. And this, I believe, is turn 3. And that is possibly just because I'm shit. Yeah, it must be because he was over here with his on turn 1. So turn 2 he hopped down to here with his Elohi, and I've been forced to turn my chariots to face him and shoot some more. You see, I've done 1 point of damage on them, which is terrible. And my dragon is here, so I think this is my turn 3 possibly, or the end of my turn 3. No, it would have been beginning of my turn 3, end of his turn 2. So he's hopped the Elohi down here, out of range, so I couldn't charge them with my chariots. And you can see I've just started, I've turned my dragon here to start threatening their behind. This base is representing my Palace Guard. It is, yeah, it's representing my Palace Guard who are over here. Because they couldn't really fit on the wall, so we just used the base to represent that they are now sitting on the wall, inviting the villains to charge me onto the end of the wall on a hindered charge, which wouldn't really work. So that was how I am. And then let's see what's happened on the rest of the battlefield. So we played chicken a lot with these troops, because they just kind of moved. There's a hill here hiding everyone. We couldn't really see. We didn't want to charge each other. These are speed 7, I'm speed 6. There was a lot of edging backwards and forwards, shall we say, in the middle. Oh, and this screenshot is the wrong way around, for which I humbly apologise. So essentially, what happened is we edged forward, and then I realised quickly I'm not going to be able to get out of their charge range, so I shot them a little bit with my chariots, and then I decided that what I was going to have to do was to take a charge. I decided to charge. He presented both of them as he wanted me to charge with the dragons and the chariots. In fact, Nick sat there going, "Charge me, charge me," and I said no. I nearly did, but I didn't. And so I flew the dragons over here and hid them behind. So this is putting them into a nice threatening position. And essentially I've sacrificed my chariots to these 2 units of cavalry. So I charged them in. I don't think I did a lot of damage to whichever one I charged. Apologies for that wonky screenshot. That's a bit better. So 7 points. Oh, that's right, because he'd hopped forward the shitty ones. So my chariots had charged into them. 7 points of damage, didn't even waver them. And then as you can see, the troop and the regiment have finished off my chariots. He's turned these to face the battlefield. Now, at the moment, my dragons are facing the wrong way, so everything, as you can see, is out of the line of sight. So this is at the end of his turn 3. Okay, so that was that side of the battlefield. Middle of the battlefield is always. So this is a really interesting, because Nick had posted something about declaring your intention, making sure that it's clear, always using blank bases. So like these blank bases you can see to plan your movements. Because I'd moved some stuff around. So what he's done here is he's moved his water elementals sideways in order to get them out of the line of sight of the out of the range of charge of the Drakon. So I can't flank his elementals with my Drakon, which was kind of my plan. So he's moved them out of range, but then we spent a great deal of time. I don't know if I've got a screenshot of it. I have. We spent a great deal of time measuring distances, so the distance of this back unit being just outside of 12, stuff like that. What we didn't look at was, could my tall spears, was the centre of my tall spears just beyond the hill or behind the hill? So he's moved them all the way over. We didn't check the line of sight, and I was fiddling around with the tall spears and didn't use a proxy base. I realised too late that I think they were here. I put them roughly where they were, and where I put them, I could clip the corner of this base with their line of sight. I mean, a long chat about it. And in the end, I said, "Look, Nick, I've moved them. It's my fault. I won't take the charge." But Nick, who is an absolute gent, was like, "Well, tell you what, neither of us can remember. Let's 4-up it. Let's roll." I said, "Look, I'm really happy to not take. I'll do something else. We'll do something else. It's fine." But no, he said, "Roll the dice." So we rolled. I rolled a 6, which means I charged them with my tall spears. So interesting. Really taught me always use a base when planning your moves. Always, and I do generally. I just forgot on this one occasion. But props to Nick for being a real gent in that situation. So, and on the right hand side, all I did was turn. This is my turn 3. I turned the Drakons, as you can see. Just to threaten. Since I can't reach the elementals, I might as well just try and kill some cavalry instead. Okay. So there's me. There's my tall spears charging into the elementals, and as you can see, I've done 7 points of damage. I think 7 or 8, but I didn't manage to kill them. And what I've done with the Palace Guard is turned them to. In fact, you can see my nerve roll there is a 3. So I think I did probably quite a lot and just rolled a crappy nerve roll. And I've turned the Palace Guard to face the horsemen, just because. Best I can do, really, at that place. The other Palace Guard have charged into the Valanes, who didn't take the bait, so I just thought, right, I'll do it then. But only did 4 points of damage. And you can see here that my chariots have turned to threaten the Elohi. So if the Elohi pop around the rock and charge in, they're going to take a chariot and a dragon at the same time. The dragon, by the way, continued to roll appallingly with Blizzard. Good job, dragon. Okay, so so this is there's a blurry action shot of that part of the battlefield. This is right. So this is him working out what to do. So I've also moved the Green Lady up because she's my healer and she's been healing bits. So he's got his brew of strength a cavalry here, and he's just working out, shall I charge the green lady? Get her out of the way. My thumb there. And there's some little bit of action shots. Ooh, I love an action shot. So these are the reconnoiters on their little watery base. Aren't they beautiful? Oops. And these are the sharpness. So what he did up here. Okay, so the Drakons are turned to face. So on turn 4, he's like, okay, I'm going to flank here, or what's going to happen? So he can't get these out of my charge. If he moves them back, still within charge range. He can't get them out. Forward, still within charge range. So what he does is he turns them to the right and comes down to the bottom of the forest. So he comes out of the forest so that I can't see him, or slightly outside. So that's what that's showing on turn 4. So there he is. So turn 4, they're just outside the forest, so the dragon can't see them anymore, which is cheeky. Look at that Elohi action shot. So this is an Elohi's eye view of the battlefield. You see my dragon threatening there, the chariots threatening here, you've got some palace guard threatening here, everyone's threatening, and the Elohi are like, maybe we'll just won't pop our heads around the corner. Just charging around. So the right hand side here, this is what's left. So then in his turn, he moves this cavalry unit, the sharpness ones, I want to say. He moves them back so that they're out of charge range. He moves these ones, I think he turns them around possibly. Yeah, they're nimbles. He turns them and moves them forward to block me. The only available charge for me is the reconnoiters. I did take a screenshot of that, sorry. So just imagine he turns them around and moves them over so they are within charge range of the Drakons, but the Drakons will be fully in the face of the sharpness cavalry. So another little Elohi eye view there. Just taking a picture of that. It's a really nice looking game, this one. I think the armies look good fighting each other. So, what has happened here? So over here we had these, you can see these elementals are fighting the tall spears. The other elementals are then in a position to charge my palace guard. So they were behind these villains. The villains were here. So he's moved the villains out of the way, and he's charged my palace guard with his elementals. Now, he's only done 6 points of damage, but what he's done, he's locked me now. So they're going to get a flank with the villains, and a front with the elementals, no matter what happens next turn. So this is a really nice piece of positioning, very clever. And I decided to take the bait. And you can see actually these cavalry down here actually are in the woods, so I could see them, but I think they're out of charge range. Yeah. So I took the bait of charging those cavalry because I thought, well, having reconnoiters around it is annoying, and actually I felt like my Drakons could take a front charge from these cavalry. Let's see if I'm right. So over here we have got right. This is Nick's position. So then my tall spears charged into the elementals, finished them off, and turned to face. And the dragon moved into a slightly more threatening position. So I gave him a front charge. So I've given him the availability of a front charge onto these palace guard, a front charge onto the tall spears, or a front charge onto the dragon. Or he could join in on this little attack on my palace guard and flank them. Whatever happens after that, he's going to get something in the flank or the rear or somewhere he doesn't want it. So this is him just seeing what would happen if he was attacking the tall spears. He's unlikely to pop the tall spears in one go, and you can see he's just within the charge arc of the dragon if he does do that. So what he actually does is pop them back behind the rock. He's like, yeah, no, actually I won't want to charge, because he's currently within charge range of these ones as well, so if I can charge them, I'll knock off their fly, and then they're pretty much screwed. So he backs them off around the rock. So there's where we are. So he's also got chariots. So basically wherever he goes, the Elohi are really not looking very happy. So he's got some chariots waiting for him. He's got tall spears, dragon. He is controlling the situation here with the single palace guard, but he's using 2 units to do it. So, and all his horses are stuck over the other side. One of them's facing the wrong way, and the other one's got a Drakon in front of them. That's where we are. So this is what happens then. I think this is in my turn. Yes. So what he backs them around the rock, and then spoiler, there they are up there. Why are the Elohi up there? Because I moved my chariots backwards, and in roll of the century, shot the living hell out of them, and then rolled. I think I rolled a 9 and then an 11 on the nerve, and I killed them, which was so lucky. And Nick said that could have won you the game at that point. and I got very excited. Actually, slightly embarrassingly, did a very, very elaborate dance, another spinning dance of happiness, which was not the most mature thing to do. There you go. So managed to kill off his Elohi. Very happy about that, and that allows me to position things off. So now the dragon. So he finished off my Palace Guard, unsurprisingly, with his elementals and his flank from the villains. So then I turn my dragon to face in and just to take on these elementals, because what I don't want is him getting his elementals and his villains down here into my half of the board. So if I attack the elementals, then the villains don't have room to turn and get down here. I've got my horde here, just bridging into his half, so I can turn and move. And my tools and my Palace Guard here have turned this way to back up the dragon in this fight here. And I've got my chariots. So it's getting very tense now, because he's got on. You can't quite see on the left-hand side of the battlefield. What he's got here is his horsemen. So that's a bit of dragon action there. 5 points of damage onto his doodahs. That's the space where the Elohi were. That's a rather gloaty screenshot, I feel. Right. So he wants to bring all of his horses across. Annoyingly, all his horses are in my half of the board. These are the ones that went down below the forest. So what I did was stick the Green Lady in front of them, because she is an excellent roadblock, being defense 6. So he's wanging them over to try and knock her off and take out some of my troops that are down here. Ooh, look at that. That's a bit of a... These screenshots are slightly out of order. Maybe these are the other ones. Are they? Yeah, they are. So what's happened is they've killed my Dracons. But I didn't expect that. I thought I could probably stand a charge. But again, he rolled out the box and he knocked my Dracons off. So these are the ones from the top, I think, possibly coming over, that go into the Green Lady. And this is the ones from the bottom. And that's their view of the battlefield. Not got good eyesight, as you can see. This is where we are. Yes, I was right. So these are they've killed my Dracons. Rude. And I've put the Green Lady as a roadblock. And he's brought these ones up now to threaten here. So I can't really get these Palace Guard into his half of the board. In fact, this is now towards turn 6, because this block here is representing the tall spears. So what he did was shoot his adjutant over here and put her about 2 inches in front of my tall spears. So the tall spears were, if you remember, facing these cavalry. So what I did on my turn was to move the Green Lady in front of the horseman, and then turn the tall spears ready to move into his half. But he blocked me with this piece here. And you can see this is a 24-inch ruler. Okay, so this is towards the end of turn 6 now. So in my turn, the dragon and the chariots then charged into these elementals, killing them. But the chariots wouldn't be able to overrun far enough to get into his turn, into his half, because they're just too long. But the dragon could. So I killed with the dragon and overran here, so you can see. So I blocked his villains from getting into my half. These Palace Guard move forward, and these Palace Guards just kind of sat there, and the Green Lady stopped here. But the problem is he's got 2 regiments of cavalry over here on my half of the board, so it's 2 unit strength each. I've got a dragon, which is 1, and a regiment of Palace Guard here, which is 2, so that's 3. So what I needed to get was this horde, represented by this block, because they were falling off the hill, into his half of the board. But because he really cleverly placed this hero here, I couldn't quite get him. If you actually track across here, you can see it's 1 centimetre out. And there was 1 centimetre on the edge of the horde that couldn't quite get into his half of the board. So that's at the end of turn 6. So we rolled off for turn 7. There you go, so that's a closer action, so you see how close that is. If you put a line across from this ruler, it's really a centimetre. We rolled for turn 7, and there was no turn 7. So Nick won 4-3, which was much closer than I expected. It was a really hard fought game. There was a lot of clever positioning. I got lucky in a couple of places. Killing the Phoenix in turn 1 was really lucky. And knocking off those Elohi was another bit of good luck. He got lucky in managing to kill my Dracons in a single charge. But it was really good positioning, and I really enjoyed it. Just so gutting to lose by a single point. But I think Nick had just come off a loss from Andy Ransom. Watch Andy's report of that match. So I think to then lose to a total newbie might have been a little bit much, and not very likely, frankly. But there you go. So that's what that's the end of game 3. So it wasn't, I mean, I killed a lot, which was another thing. So, you know, I think I got a 10. So he got, you get 15 for a victory, and then he'd killed a couple, and then he had 2 units. So I think he went up to 20. I think he was a 19 or a 20. And I had 5 for a loss, and then 2 for having 2 units, 7, and then I had 3 for the amount I killed. So it put me up to a 10. So 10's not a bad loss. It's pretty good for a loss, but it put me into like 7th, I think, so right, something like that, 6th, 7th. Which then, next round, I should have faced against Rene Jean, who I'd never met before, but really nice guy, and he was playing the Lizards, whatever they're called. What are they called? Let's look in a book. This is a book right here. Salamanders. He had a salamander up, which was really interesting. I'd never fought salamanders before, but the matchups had meant that he would have had to fight someone he'd already fought. So instead it was shuffled around, and I ended up against Richard Miller and his herd army. Now I know Richard really well, so let's go on to that battle. Right then, so finally, game 4. So, against Richard. So I know Richard pretty well, and I've played this army. I've lost to this army before. What to say really? So at this time, bearing in mind I've never done a competition, a tournament before. I was pretty shattered by the time we got to game 5. I had 2 pretty intense games against 2 big names, very close finishes in both of them, and I was pretty rinsed. And it sounds like I'm making excuses, because I'm making excuses for... I'll show you in a minute. Right, so let's go. Okay, first things first, let's do Richard's list. So, the herd. So, very nimble, very fast list. He's got 2 beast pack troops, chaff. A horde of lichens, and the brewer's strength for the speed 9. Very nasty. A horde of giant eagles, vanilla. They're kind of like shit dracons. 2 hordes of tribal chariots. I really like the herd chariots. They're super fast. They're speed 9 still. Melee 3. And unfortunately, their shooting's on 5s. But they're powerful. A stampede with the Chalice of Wrath. So fury on a 30 attack unit. Excuse me while I swig that. A great totem. This is an advanced deployment rally 2 thing. Dash 18 nerve. A centaur chief with a bow and the blade of slashing. It's a little hitty unit to annoy flyers. A shaman with heal. Mounted shaman with heal and shout of the saint. Anyway, a lot of heal. Heal 8. As much heal as I've got. Where's it heal 4? If I typed a 5 and it's 4, it's not important. Maybe 5. Yeah, and it comes with Bane Chant 3 as default. It's pretty good. And an Avatar of the Father, which is a giant monster. Speed 10, flying. So really strong. Everything's pretty much nimble. Everything's defense 4, which is the one weakness of the herd. Okay. So this is what I'm making an excuse for. So the scenario is pillage. I think it's pillage. Is it pillage? It's the one with they're all loot tokens, basically. Those things along the middle, and then you select in turn tokens to be worth 2 points rather than 1. So Richard won sides and chose that side. So let's look at the scenario. Let's look at the scenery quickly. So we've got a blocking terrain here, a piece of difficult terrain here underneath my chariots. There's 2 hills in the middle. This is the Great Totem, by the way. I think on this side there is a piece of blocking terrain. We'll see in a minute. There's a wall there, a bit of forest here, and another house here. And there's a lake. So we placed tokens out. Richard won sides and chose that side. Largely because he'd get chariots up onto a hill, I think. Which also meant that he chose which of these tokens to be 2 points first. So he chose this one. I then chose the one you can't quite see off the screen here. And the reason I chose that is because I know how quick his army is and how quick it is to get flanks and stuff. So I was planning to castle up in the corner. So I want to fight totally around these because there's 5 tokens. 2 of them are worth 2. So I just want to get those 2 tokens. So I was just going to castle up here on the right hand side. And then kind of in a daze on autopilot, I deployed exactly like I deployed the rest of the weekend. Just in a long stringy line. which was incredibly stupid, really dumb, because I haven't taken photographs of each of the deployments, but we can quickly look at his deployment. So on his left hand side, he's got one of the beast packs here. Just out of shot here is the Avatar of the Father, because it started down here. So he put both of his flying units over here on the left. These are the Eagles. He has 2 chariots in the middle. This is his Stampede. He advanced deployed slightly. I can deploy up to, I think, 18 inches. Yeah, so that's the Great Totem. And those are his Lycans. And on the right hand side, he's got his other beast pack and his Centaur Chief. And that's is there the Healy one there? Yeah, I think so. So he's positioning for fast in the unit, really fast on the left, so a fast flank, so he's going to try and wrap around. So really, the only chance I had was to sit here and shoot things and then kind of out melee as they come in, to offer him poor choices, instead of which I've kind of given him really easy targets. So I deployed this way, so I put my Dracons on the left, 2 chariots in the middle, opposite his chariots, then the normal line of the formation here, and then on the right hand side there's the Dragon. So I've got a Dragon against 3 really fast units here, which is a problem. I've got 2 fast flying units against my 1 Dracon unit here, so I'm outpowered here, because if I face one, I've got the other in the flank. I've got chariots on chariots, it's fine, but I've really put myself into a poor start, and you'll see how this kind of plays out, really. And as soon as I literally put the last model down, I looked at Rich and went, I've done this completely wrong. And I think he was very sympathetic, but you can't change it. We're in a tournament. We're on the clock. So it is what it is. Excuse me. So Richard, I believe, also won first turn. So this is how he kind of pushed it out. So you see the beast pack all the way down the right. Here was a forest down here. There you go. One of the trees has gone walkies. He pushed his beast pack all the way out to the right here. These are the Lycans, and this is his Stampede. So all he wants to do is get the Stampede into things. 30 attacks. Dreadful. These are the 2 tokens here. And I've got a Dragon looking a little bit uncertain now. And he's positioned it very cleverly, because I can't get here. I can't get behind them, which is what you try and do with flyers. If I could get here, it would be perfect, but I can't because of the angle. It just doesn't work. So this, there he is, the Avatar of the Father. Worth saying about Richard's army. I was very lucky to play 3 beautiful armies. This one won second best army at last year's Clash of Kings, and it's the only fully Mantic herd army in existence. So everything is Mantic. From one of their ranges. So the Avatar's made from Cronius, stuff like that. Really cool. So you see what he's done here. He's pushed the Eagles forward to threaten the Dracons, and he's put the Avatar all the way down and turned so that I can't move out, basically, without getting charged by something, which is smart. So here's what I did. I shot the Dragons up here. So basically they're up to outside of the forest. The Avatar can't see them, and the Eagles can't see them because they're out of charge line. And then I turned, so I was faced with a problem because my chariots were going to get flanked. They were going to get either flanked by the Eagles or by the Avatar, and they weren't. I couldn't turn them both, and they were going to basically something's going to go pop because my chariots aren't strong enough to take 2 of these. So I made a strategic decision to retreat. You can see on the back of the other chariots here. So basically, I've turned them and shot them over to get them out of the way, which it robbed me of a turn of shooting. But I couldn't stay forward and just shoot these, because then I was going to have to turn them. I couldn't turn both of them because of the space that I got. If I couldn't turn both of them round, so I had to move this one all the way to the right in order to turn this one, and there wasn't enough room for both of them to go out. So that was the choices I made in response to his first turn. There was a bit of shooting. I think I shot. Did I shoot? Yeah, I think I've shot these birds for about 1 damage with this chariot because I'm hitting on 6s, so meh. And he shot my Dracons here and he's done 1 damage too, so 1 for 1. So there's the chariot running down the back of my lines to try and provide some support. And I chucked the Dragon out here onto the right hand flank, so it's just out of the charge arc of this beast pack. And it enables me to kind of sit there and to breath something. Did I breath something? but I can't quite remember what I breathed, and it might not have been here. So then, turn 2. Obviously, he piled in. So a chariot, because he's speed 9, and the avatar into my chariot that I sacrificed there. And unsurprisingly, they died. And then on the right-hand side, he turned his hero to attack my dragon and did the requisite 1 point of damage he needed, I think. Or did he? No, I don't think he did. I think he missed. Or... Oh no, he did. He did do some damage because then in response to that, everything else moved forward. So in response to that, I chucked... Wow, these I've missed quite a bit of action there. Because if you look backwards, here I've got tall spears, and I've got 2 palace guard, and I've got the chariots. And then dragon moves over. They go into the chariots and blew them up. He does a couple of points of damage, and then all of a sudden, where's the tall spears gone? So I think I must have moved everyone forward. Yeah. And he's stampeded right into my tall spears and destroyed them in a single go. Yeah, which is extremely painful for me to have to deal with. And on the left-hand side, I have to be honest, I can't remember what happened with the dragons because I was ready in a position to flank these 2 chariots. These ones obviously moved down to kill off my chariots that were sitting here. And these ones... I think maybe he brought his beast pack around, this beast pack around to threaten the rear of my dragon, so I had to turn to deal with it. I remember there was some shenanigans around having to deal with it, and I put them out here to be just outside the charge arc of these chariots. And then I didn't manage to kill the beast pack, I think, and that was the problem, so I was stuck there, which means he got a recharge with his chariot into my dragons, which killed them. On the left here, I had to move my palace guard out to face off against these eagles to stop them charging the tall spears that then got totaled by the beast pack. The lichens, we went in with the dragon and my palace guard into the lichens. And I think we killed them. Yes, we did. We did kill them. Because I've got the avatar here. It was very lucky because I've got the avatar here ready to jump on them. My other chariots here just taking some pot shots and generally missing. So there's the combat. Post tall spear death. And there's his avatar and chariots threatening. So there's 4 wounds on these palace guard from the birds, but they're still there. Yeah, so this is the issue. So I went into this beast pack to protect myself, essentially, and didn't kill it, which is a problem, because, hello, melee 3 chariots. Right, so this was a disaster for me. So I'd killed off the lichens who are here. These lichens died to, obviously, this dragon and to the tall spears. And then I reformed. So the way I reformed, I overran with the dragon by, I think, 2. And then I turned the palace guard to face the avatar of the father. And what I did without realising was I gave him a corner. So you can see here, this must be a centimetre worth of corner from the turn that he could get his avatar into for a flank. So really silly mistake. Tiredness again. If I'd have just turned them both 90 degrees, it wouldn't have happened. Beast Pack went into the palace guard. And yeah, avatar flanked my dragon. Ah, there you go. So I think I did manage to kill the beast pack, but then had to turn to face the chariots. We didn't kill me on the first turn, but oh, look at that hot chariot on chariot action. So the other chariots came across to face my chariots that had been waiting and shooting. Chariot on chariot action. Ooh, love it. Except his are stronger than mine. So yeah, there you go. Palace Guard managed to survive the beast pack, hindered into their front. The dragon did not survive. Hey, what were these Palace Guard fighting? Birds. And I think I killed the birds with these Palace Guard, which is super great of me. These chariots finished off my chariots. I don't know why these photos are so small rather than full screen. A bit weird. But then obviously the avatar then went in to flank these tall spears and finished them off. There's the very noble Palace Guard who have now turned with their 3 wounds, having killed the birds, to face and try and deal with stuff. 8 wounds onto these, blurry action shot, into these chariots. There's a hand there. Right, so this is where we were. So he finished off my chariots with his chariots, unsurprisingly. The Beastpack and the Avatar killed my Palace Guard and then turned. These chariots, having finished off my Dracons, turned and jumped over. And we've got a very terrified set of Palace Guards and a Standard Bearer standing here in the middle. This is not a great situation to be at on turn 5. I've got 1 regiment and a Standard Bearer left against a horde of that with 30 attacks, 2 chariot regiments and a giant monster. Fuck, basically. Yeah, and that's that's a close-up action shot of a very shortly to be painfully dead unit of a Palace Guard, flanked by chariots, in the face by a stampede. Oof. And you see what I did here was bomb my Standard Bearer way over as far as he could go, because at this point I've so lost. I just don't want to be tabled. Apart from the fact I have to look at Richard when I play every week, or every other week, or whatever it is we meet. So I bombed him all the way over and just prayed for no turn 7. There he is! Look at that, man! Whoa! Tough as anything, because there was no turn 7, and that was my last remaining miniature on the board. Humiliating. Utterly destroyed. Just to show that initial deployment is incredibly important, because you leave yourself exposed, you just get smashed. You know, Dracons out on their own without support is just no good. It's no good against a player who's got things that can move fast. It's a nice model though, right? It's a nice model. And that is the end of my tournament. So obviously with such a crushing defeat, my 6th or 7th place, whatever it was, turned into 15th out of 20. I got rather shot down. So pride comes before a fall and all that kind of thing. So I ended up with a win, 2 losses and a draw. But I did win best newcomer, which was very kind. And I think I've probably got Nick and maybe Dan to thank for that. So thanks for that. It's very kind, and I got some lovely dice as a prize. And yeah, I just want to get better for next time and not cock it up so badly on the last game. So the next tournament, I mean, it's a couple of weeks. It's a local one, only I think 10, 12 players, 14 players like that, with 3 games. So we'll see how I go on that one. I might run these Elves of Twilightkin since they're kind of painted in a subtle way. It could be either. We'll see. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Death by Dragons.